The planet Velara floated in the far corner of the Andromeda galaxy, shining like a blue diamond wrapped in silver clouds. It was home to the Velans, a race of enormous crystalline beings. Their bodies were made of translucent mineral, glowing softly like living prisms. Each one stood nearly 40 feet tall. When they walked, their feet left trails of light on the ground. For the first time in history, humans from Earth were about to meet them. A small silver shuttle descended through the glowing sky, its engines humming quietly. Inside sat a group of human diplomats wearing sleek white suits. They were nervous but excited. Among them was Evan Carter, a 17-year-old boy with brown hair, calm eyes, and a small device hanging from his neck. He was the youngest xenolinguist in Earth's diplomatic fleet. His job was to help communicate with alien species, not through words alone but by reading emotional frequencies and brain patterns. Evan's gift was rare. He could feel emotions through resonance even from different life forms. That was why the Human Council had sent him. When the shuttle landed on a wide crystal platform, the humans stepped out. The Velans were waiting, tall, elegant, and glowing in shades of blue and green. Their faces were smooth and sharp, their voices sounding like wind passing through glass. The leader of the Velans, High Envoy Kalir, looked down at the small humans. "Are these your warriors?" he asked, his tone filled with amusement. The ground vibrated slightly when he spoke. Evan stepped forward. He looked tiny beside them, barely reaching the Velans' knees. He could feel their curiosity and doubt washing over him like cold waves. Many of them thought humans were weak creatures. Some even whispered that Earth was too fragile to be trusted with advanced energy knowledge. Then a young Velan girl moved closer. She was glowing pale pink, the color of curiosity. Her name was Alyara, an apprentice diplomat still learning the ways of her people. Her crystalline face reflected Evan's image like a tiny statue caught in a gem. She blinked her glowing eyes and said softly, "You are so small. Are you sure you're not afraid of us?" Evan smiled up at her. "Do not mind my size," he said with calm confidence. "I'll be very gentle." A few Velans laughed at his words, but Alyara tilted her head, curious. To her, the sentence sounded strange but sincere. She could sense no fear in the boy, only a quiet determination. High Envoy Kaler allowed the humans to enter the great luminar hall, a vast chamber filled with crystal pillars that sang faintly when the wind blew through them. There the humans and Velans began their first talks about peace and trade. The Velans were masters of energy manipulation. They could bend light and store star power inside crystal cells. Humanity, on the other hand, was famous for its creativity, the ability to combine science with imagination. The meeting was meant to explore cooperation, but tension filled the air. Some Velans whispered that humans were reckless, always expanding, always wanting more. During the session, Evan sat beside Captain Reyes, the human leader. He didn't speak much but observed carefully. He noticed Alyara watching him from across the hall. Every time a disagreement rose, he could feel the emotional pulse of frustration in the room. When it became too heavy, he gently adjusted the frequency emitter around his neck, sending out calm, peaceful waves. Alyara noticed. The energy in the hall softened. Even Kalir looked less stern. She realized the boy was somehow influencing the mood, not with technology alone, but with empathy. Later that evening, as the talks ended, Alyara found Evan outside the hall. The twin suns of Velara were setting, painting the sky with purple fire. The glass-like ground reflected the colors and waves of light. She crouched beside him, her huge crystal hands resting on her knees. "You changed the feeling in that room," she said quietly. "I could sense it." Evan looked up at her. "I didn't change it," he replied. "I just reminded everyone that we all want the same thing, peace." Alyara tilted her head again, studying him. "Humans are strange. You are small, yet your hearts make noise I can hear. We Velans lost that long ago. What do you mean?" Evan asked. She looked toward the horizon where the light faded into shadows. "Our people became perfect long ago. We no longer feel the full range of emotions. We are stable, logical, efficient. But it also means we have forgotten warmth." Evan smiled softly. "Maybe that's why we're here, to remind you that logic and warmth can live together." Before Alyara could reply, a faint tremor ran through the platform beneath them. The ground shimmered. Somewhere far away, a tower of light flickered and went dark. Alyara frowned. "That is strange. The energy lines should not fail." At that moment, an older Valen guard approached. His armor shone like blue ice. "Apprentice Alyara," he said sharply, "return to the upper hall. There are rumors of sabotage. Some think the humans brought unstable technology." Alyara looked at Evan, her eyes uncertain. "Sabotage? But the humans just arrived." Evan's translator beeped as he tried to read the guard's tone. It wasn't anger. It was fear. "Something was wrong. We didn't do anything," Evan said calmly. "But maybe I can help. I can detect energy shifts. If something is broken, I can find the pattern." The guard hesitated. "You, a creature so small?" Alyara stepped forward. "He can help. I will take responsibility." The guard frowned but allowed them to pass. Together, Alyara and Evan entered one of the energy tunnels below the Luminar Hall. The tunnels pulsed with soft blue light, carrying power from the star core, the massive crystal heart that fueled Velara's cities. As they walked, the glow began to flicker. Evan placed his hand against a crystal wall. The resonance device on his wrist blinked. He could feel something wrong, not a deep vibration like a heartbeat out of rhythm. "There's interference here," he said. "Something is feeding false energy into the line." Alyara knelt, her huge eyes narrowing as she touched the same wall. "It feels corrupted. But who would do this?" Evan shook his head. "Maybe someone who doesn't want peace." As they followed the signal deeper, they reached a chamber filled with hanging crystals. Some were cracked. Energy leaked from them in glowing streams. Evan knelt beside one of the damaged cores and used his small tool to stabilize it. His hands trembled slightly, but his focus never wavered. Alyara watched in silence. Despite his smallness, he worked with care and patience. Each movement was slow, thoughtful, gentle. After several minutes, the crystal stabilized and the light stopped flickering. He stepped back, breathing hard. "That should stop the main surge," he said. Alyara was silent for a moment. Then she said softly, "You fixed what even some of our engineers cannot. And you did it without panic." Evan wiped sweat from his forehead and gave her a tired smile. "I told you I'd be gentle." For the first time, Alyara laughed, a sound like tiny bells. "Perhaps your kind is not as fragile as they seem." Evan's smile faded slightly. "We're fragile, yes, but we're also stubborn. That's how we survive." Suddenly, a deep alarm echoed through the tunnels. The crystal walls flashed red. A voice boomed through the halls. "Emergency protocol! Energy breach in lower spire." Alyara stood up in alarm. "That's near the star core. If it fails, the entire city could collapse." Evan looked up, his eyes wide. "We have to tell your leaders." But before they could move, a group of tall figures appeared at the tunnel entrance. Valens wearing dark armor that absorbed light instead of reflecting it. Their eyes glowed faint crimson. One of them raised a crystal spear. "Stop!" the leader hissed. "No human leaves this chamber alive." Alyara gasped. "The Shardborn?" Evan's pulse quickened. He could feel the air vibrating with danger. Yet he didn't run. He stood his ground beside Alyara, his small form casting a long shadow in the glow of the broken crystals. His voice was calm but firm. "Looks like peace has more enemies than we thought." Alyara glanced down at him, both frightened and impressed. For the first time in her life, she understood what true courage looked like. Not in size, but in spirit. And somewhere deep inside the shining halls of Velara, history had already begun to change. The air inside the tunnel turned sharp and tense. The dark-armored Valens moved closer, their crystal spears glowing with red light. Alyara took a step forward, spreading her arms in front of Evan. "Stop. He is under my protection," she said firmly. The leader of the group, a tall Valon with cracks running along his crystal face, laughed coldly. "Protection? For a creature that threatens our world? The humans bring weakness and danger. You shame your kind, Alyara." Evan looked up at him. "We came for peace, not war," he said steadily. "Someone is trying to destroy that." The red-eyed Valon ignored him. "You will come with us. The council must see what the humans have done." Alyara's hands trembled, light flickering within her. "He fixed the energy leak. He saved the tunnels." But the leader only replied, "Lies." He swung his arm, and energy bands wrapped around both of them. Within moments, Evan and Alyara were taken up through glowing corridors toward the Luminar Hall. The bright crystal towers above the city looked beautiful, but to Evan they felt like cold prison bars. The Accusation. The Council of Velara gathered in the center of the hall. Their giant forms stood in a circle of light. High Envoy Kaler's glow was dim, his expression unreadable. The Shard-born leader bowed. "High Envoy, we caught this human and his ally tampering with our energy lines. We found evidence of human tools near the damaged core." Gasps echoed through the hall. Captain Reyes and the other humans were surrounded by guards, confusion and anger on their faces. "That's not true," Evan shouted, stepping forward. "Someone planted those tools to make it look like sabotage. I can prove it." "Enough!" Kaler's voice boomed. "You speak boldly for one so small." Evan took a breath. He had learned that fear never helped communication. "Then let me show you. My device records energy patterns. The damage in the tunnels doesn't match human tools. It matches a different signature." He pressed a button on his wristband, and a holographic map appeared showing pulsing red lines across the tunnels. The energy spikes looked wild and uneven. "This pattern belongs to a Valen device," he said softly. "One that drains power, not repairs it." The hall fell silent. Alyara looked at the council. "He's telling the truth. I was there." He risked his life to fix the crystal core. Kaler's glow flickered with uncertainty. But before he could answer, the Shard-born leader raised his spear and shouted, "Do not believe the human tricks. They twist energy and minds alike. Their goal is to steal our star core." A wave of chaos filled the chamber. Crystals along the walls dimmed as panic spread. Evan's heart pounded. Through the noise, he felt something strange, a vibration deep below the city. It was the same rhythm he had sensed earlier in the tunnels, only stronger now. He whispered, "They're doing it again. They're overloading the energy grid." Alyara heard him and turned toward Kaler. "Please let us go!" "I can feel it too. The Shard-born are trying to take the star core." But before Kaler could respond, a shockwave ripped through the hall. The ground trembled violently. Cracks of red energy shot up the crystal pillars. Guards stumbled as the light dimmed around them. Kaler shouted, "Seal the hall. Protect the core." But Evan was already running toward the exit. Alyara followed, her large steps shaking the floor. The council shouted for them to stop, but they didn't listen. There was no time. The escape. They rushed through the lower corridors, alarms flashing red and white. Evan's communicator crackled. Captain Reyes's voice came through, tense and quick. "Carter, what's happening?" "We're getting strange readings from the star core." "Sir, it's the Shard-born. They're trying to overload it. If they succeed, the whole planet could break apart." "Understood. Do what you can, kid. We'll try to regain control from here." Evan turned to Alyara. "We have to reach the core chamber. Can you get me there fast?" She nodded. "Hold on." She picked him up carefully and began to run through the glowing tunnels. The wind from her speed whipped through his hair. From his small vantage, Evan could see cracks forming in the walls, sparks of red energy bursting like lightning. "What do they gain from this?" he shouted. "They believe Velara has become weak," she replied. "They want to destroy the core and rebuild our world under their rule." When they reached the last security gate, 2 guards blocked the way. Their eyes glowed with confusion. Alyara stepped forward quickly. "Let us pass." "The core is in danger." The hall ordered lockdown. One guard protested. Evan raised his wristband and projected the energy map again. "Look, the overload starts here." "If we don't stop it now, everyone dies." The guards exchanged worried looks, then stepped aside. "Go. May the light favor you." Alyara ran through the gate down the spiral path leading into the planet's heart. Journey to the star core. The deeper they went, the hotter it became. The air shimmered with raw energy. The tunnels changed from bright crystal to glowing magma-like stone. Evan could barely breathe inside his suit. Finally, they entered a vast chamber, a cavern bigger than a city. At its center floated the star core, a gigantic crystal sphere spinning slowly, glowing with blue fire. Beams of light stretched from it into the surrounding walls, but several Shard-born were already there, setting up dark devices around the core. The devices pulsed red, sucking energy into their centers, Alyara whispered. "There they are," Evan's heart raced. "If those things keep draining power, the core will collapse." He studied the readings on his wristband. "We can reverse the flow, but I'll need to get close to their main device." "That's suicide," Alyara said softly. He smiled faintly. "You said we humans are strange, right? Then let me prove it." He climbed down from her palm and began moving across the crystal floor. The vibrations were strong enough to shake his legs. Sparks of energy flashed around him, but he kept going, ducking behind broken shards for cover. One of the Shard-born saw him and shouted, The human! Stop him! Alyara rose to her full height, her crystal body blazing with pink light. You will not harm him, she cried. She swung her arm, sending a wave of energy that shattered a shard-borne weapon. The cavern filled with glowing dust as battle erupted. While Alyara fought, Evan reached the central device. It was taller than he was, humming with dangerous power. He placed his palms on its surface, letting his resonance link with the machine. Images filled his mind, vibrations, patterns, frequencies. He could feel the core crying out in pain. He whispered, I'm here. I'll fix this. Slowly, he began to redirect the energy lines. Red turned to blue. The pulse steadied, but one of the shardborn noticed and charged toward him. The ground trembled. Evan couldn't move fast enough. A massive crystal hand slammed down between them. Alyara's. The shockwave knocked both backward, but the attack had been stopped. You are brave, she said, breathing heavily, cracks spreading across her arms from the battle. So are you, he replied. Together they worked, the giant and the tiny human. Evan recalibrated the device while Alyara shielded him from debris. Piece by piece, the power grid began to stabilize. Then a deep roar echoed through the cavern. The shardborn leader appeared, wielding a glowing red spear. You think you can stop us? You are insects. Evan looked up, unafraid. Maybe, but even insects can sting. The leader lunged. Alyara intercepted him, their energies colliding in a burst of light. Crystals shattered and both fell to their knees. The chamber trembled violently. Evan saw that the core was still unstable. He checked his readings. One of the control nodes was overheating. Alyara, we need to shut down the last node. She tried to rise but faltered. Her energy was fading. I cannot reach it. Evan took a deep breath. Then I will. He sprinted across the trembling bridge toward the final node. The air burned his lungs, but he didn't stop. He connected his wristband to the node, using all his focus to reverse the flow. Light burst from the machine, engulfing him. Alyara shielded her eyes. Evan! She shouted. For a moment, the entire cavern went white. Then the light dimmed. The red glow vanished. The star core pulsed with calm blue energy once more. Evan collapsed near the node, his suit sparking but intact. Alyara crawled toward him, her voice trembling. You did it. He opened his eyes weakly. Told you. I'd be gentle. A soft laugh escaped her lips, even through the pain. You are impossible. In the silence that followed, the other shardborn fled, their plan broken. The core stabilized completely. Above them, the entire planet began to glow brighter, alive once again. Aftermath hours later, the council found them inside the cavern. Alyara was sitting beside the injured human, holding him in her palm carefully like a fragile jewel. Kaler looked around the restored core in astonishment. You saved us, he said quietly. Evan smiled faintly. Not me, us. The council ordered the shardborn arrested. The peace talks resumed the next day, this time with true trust. Alyara was given the title Guardian of the Heartspire, while Evan became Earth's youngest hero. But even as he rested in the healing chamber, he knew this was not the end. There were still mysteries left. Why the shardborn wanted to control the core, and what other dangers hid in the galaxy. For now, though, he closed his eyes, hearing Alyara's soft voice echo in his mind. You may be small, human, but your courage shines brighter than any crystal. The cavern was quiet now. The star core pulsed steadily, casting soft blue light over the crystalline walls. Evan lay in the glow, still recovering from the intense energy surge. Alyara sat beside him, her vast crystal body bent carefully to avoid crushing him, even as she towered like a protective wall. You did it, she said softly, her voice echoing like a gentle chime. You saved the core, saved everyone. Evan smiled weakly. We did it together. I couldn't have done it without you. Alyara's glowing eyes softened. You humans are strange. You are small, yet you carry courage that giants can barely imagine. He chuckled. I told you. I'd be gentle. The aftermath of the overload word of the humans' bravery spread quickly across Velara. Citizens came to see the star core glowing steadily again, whispering tales of the tiny human who faced giants and saved us all. Even High Envoy Kaler, usually reserved and stern, called for a formal meeting in the Luminar Hall to honor Evan and his companions. The Council of Velara gathered, glowing softly in their shades of green and blue. The Shardborn extremists were imprisoned in the secure outer rings of the city, their weapons confiscated. Peace had been restored, but tension still lingered. Many Velans could not forget how close they had come to disaster. Evan walked slowly beside Alyara, his small hands brushing the glowing floor. "Do you think they'll ever really trust us?" he asked. Alyara smiled faintly. "Trust is not given lightly here. But what you did, what we did together, that is stronger than words. It is proof." Evan nodded. He looked up at the towering crystals and whispered to himself, "Sometimes the smallest hand can hold the greatest power." Rebuilding the city for weeks, humans and Velans worked side by side to repair the damaged energy networks. Engineers, both human and crystalline, shared techniques and ideas. Alyara became Evan's guide, helping him navigate Velara's immense structures. One day, as they repaired a shard of the core's energy grid, Alyara paused. "I've never seen a human work with such patience," she said. "Your kind thinks quickly, acts carefully, and yet you never give up." Evan smiled, adjusting his wristband. "You Velans taught me how to sense energy. Maybe we just make a good team." Alyara laughed softly. "You may be small, human, but you have a gentle strength that my people have almost forgotten." A new threat emerges. Just when the city seemed peaceful again, a low rumble shook the ground. Crystals flickered unnaturally. Evan's wristband beeped frantically, warning of an incoming energy anomaly. Alyara's eyes widened. That's coming from the outer rings. The Shardborn must be attempting a rescue or worse." Evan took a deep breath. "Then we'll stop them, together." They raced toward the source. Outside the city, the Shardborn had activated a hidden energy device, draining power from smaller crystal satellites surrounding Velara. The device pulsed with red energy, threatening to destabilize the entire planetary shield. Alyara's massive crystal form glowed brightly as she prepared to confront them. "I will hold them off," she said. "You stop the device." Evan nodded. "I'm small, but my suit can amplify my strength." He activated the nano-exosuit again, the same one he had used to stabilize the core before. The suit expanded slightly, giving him enough height and protection to move near the device safely. The final confrontation. The Shardborn, seeing Evan approach, attacked fiercely. Alyara shielded him with sweeping arms, scattering the attackers like a storm. Evan moved quickly, using his wristband to analyze the device's energy patterns. It was unstable, but with careful adjustment, he could reverse its flow. "Evan, hurry!" Alyara shouted as a shard of red energy shot toward him. He ducked just in time, the beam sizzling past his suit. He worked methodically, connecting wires and adjusting conduits with precision. Even in the face of danger, he remained calm. Each movement was deliberate, gentle, and careful, just as he had promised. Alyara, though immensely powerful, struggled to fend off all the Shardborn. Her energy began to waver under their combined attacks. Evan noticed a critical overload forming in the device. If it detonated, the outer ring satellites would explode, causing a chain reaction across Velara. He took a deep breath and whispered, "Time to be very gentle, very careful." With a final surge of concentration, Evan stabilized the energy flow. The device's red glow softened, then turned blue. The satellites stopped trembling, and the planetary shield regained stability. The Shardborn realized they had failed. In panic, they tried to escape, but Alyara intercepted them. Her glowing body emitted a dazzling light, forcing the extremist to surrender. Evan's moment of courage exhausted, Evan fell to one knee. His suit was sparking, and his small body trembled from the strain. Alyara gently lowered him to the ground, her huge hands cradling him carefully. "You were incredible," she said. "Even though you are small, your courage, it shines brighter than the largest crystal here." Evan smiled faintly, feeling a warm glow of pride. "I told you. I'd be gentle." The two of them shared a quiet moment. Around them, the city's lights shimmered, reflecting the calm after the storm. Citizens gathered, cheering softly, their voices like a gentle wave. Even High Envoy Kaler approached, bowing deeply to the human boy. "You have proven that size does not determine strength," he said solemnly. "You have shown wisdom, courage, and gentleness." "Velara thanks you, Evan Carter." Evan bowed slightly, humbled. "I only did what anyone would try to do. I wanted to help." A symbol of unity, in the following weeks, a festival was held in the city to celebrate the alliance between humans and Velans. Alyara and Evan stood together at the top of the Luminar Tower, overlooking the glowing streets below. "You know," Alyara said, "I never imagined a human could inspire so many of my people. They see now that courage does not depend on size or strength alone." Evan looked at her, smiling. "And I never imagined a world so beautiful, or a friend so extraordinary." She tilted her head, her eyes sparkling. "You are small, yet your spirit is enormous. That is why you survived, why you succeeded." The star core glowed in the distance, casting soft light over the city. Evan knew there would always be challenges, other threats in the galaxy, other beings who might not understand humans. But he also knew that together, humans and Velans could face anything. For the first time, he truly felt what it meant to be a bridge between worlds, a tiny human with the power to change the course of history, a promise for the future months later. As humans and Velans continued to work together, Evan was honored with the title of Honorary Giant, a symbol of trust, courage, and gentleness. Children of both species studied the events that had saved the Star Corps. They learned how the smallest ambassador had taught a world of giants about bravery and care. One evening, Alyara and Evan stood beside the glowing Star Corps once more. "You may be small, human," Alyara said, her light flickering softly. "But your courage, your gentle heart, has made a world better." Evan smiled. "And I promise, as long as I live, I will always try to be gentle and careful." The twin suns of Velara set behind them, casting long shadows across the crystalline city. In the soft glow of evening, it was clear to everyone that even the smallest beings could leave the greatest mark on the universe. And so, the story of the tiny human and the giant alien girl became a legend, a tale of courage, empathy, and the gentle power that defines humanity.